Welcome back. Hillary Clinton reportedly attracting more money from the financial services sector than any of the other candidates combined. According to the Wall Street Journal, Clinton has raised $4.2 million from Wall Street. More than half of her donations in March came from Wall Street donors who shifted their support from Republicans who have dropped out of the race. On the other side, Donald Trump has collected less than 1% of Wall Street donations through March. I want to bring in former Goldman Sachs senior partner and Donald Trump supporter, Peter Kiernan. Peter, good to see you.
Great to be with you.
Amazing numbers, you know, and I guess, do you see it as, look, Wall Street saw that Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee, and they said, you know what, I'm going to Hillary?
That's certainly a part of it, Maria. I would say that it's hard to airbrush the Clintons out of the Wall Street picture and vice versa. Going back to the Bill Clinton days when Bob Rubin was his chief economic advisor, there's been a closeness between the Clintons and Wall Street, and that carries on. I think there's a concern about where true north lies with Hillary because she's being pulled so far to the left by Bernie and some of the other Elizabeth Warren initiatives. It remains to be seen. Donald Trump is not particularly close to Wall Street, and he really hasn't started his fundraising initiative. He's taken a former partner of mine to be chairman of his national campaign, and I think we'll see a renewed emphasis on Wall Street and fundraising from Donald.
Right. Stevie Mnuchin from Goldman is working with Donald Trump. So you think this changes going into the general election? You think Wall Street starts splitting up and going toward him, or they just trust Hillary?
They seem to, even without knowing precisely where she's going to land. If you look back at the 2012 election, Mitt Romney outpulled Barack Obama 3-1. So there was a very big Wall Street pull towards the Republican side last time. This is a complete reversal. And I think that's powerful.
You know, Peter, with all due respect, I think the most powerful thing for Trump would be to not take Wall Street money, as he's not been doing. And we think if we go into a general election and he continues with this populist rhetoric and saying, I'm not beholden to anyone, and Hillary is getting hit to the left because she is taking Wall Street money, maybe I'm wrong, and I know you're probably fundraising for him, but I think it's much more powerful if he doesn't take Wall Street money.
Well, it's an interesting strategy. Last time, 2012, Wall Street came up with about $90 million worth of donations. So they're a powerful player. But Donald has been he's sort of been a rule breaker all the way along, and so it may not be a bad idea just to say I'm going to be independent. I don't think he's going to do as well as Hillary's done on Wall Street. She does have a lasting legacy there. I know she's trying very hard to position herself as distant from Wall Street, but when she was a New York senator, she was very accommodating and open to Wall Street suggestions.
Yeah. I'm curious if it's, you know, he hasn't really, as you say, turned to fundraising measures right now, and I think a lot of people are still waiting to see exactly what he's going to do. Do you think it's that she's been fundraising and he hasn't, and they're waiting to see what he's going to do, or that they're really leaning towards Hillary?
I think a lot of people, it's a great question, a lot of people are waiting for a pivot right now from Donald. There's sort of a rough and tumble for the 10% of the people who are going to vote in the primary, but general election is very different. The money demands are very, very different, and the demands on him as a candidate are going to be very different. He has yet to rise to that occasion. I think for most of us who have looked at him, he's been a bit of an exasperating candidate because he's been slow to let go of that trapeze bar. He's floating in midair, and everyone's waiting for the next trapeze bar to come, which is not acting presidential, but being presidential.
So you're a Trump supporter. What do you see that these other guys don't yet?
Well, I think that he has a business fluency that's very powerful, and I think, frankly, Hillary has been pretty much looking through the rearview mirror in terms of how we look at jobs creation, how we look at turning the economy around. It's going to be more of the same. I think Donald has views that are a bit more powerful, a bit more on point in terms of the middle class.
So you see him as, do you see Donald as good for business in terms of tax policy for corporations and everything like that? Are we going to hear more about that? Well,
I doubt we're going to hear, there's a lot of soaring rhetoric from Donald about how fantastic he's going to be as a job creator. I think he's missing some of the key ingredients. And what I'd like to hear from him, we have major disruption going on right now. A study came out that said 40% of our jobs are going to be disrupted in the next 10 years. We have at least 4 million of unfilled skill-based jobs. And frankly, a youth unemployment problem that's serious. Unless somebody focuses on those three, we're not going to turn the jobs picture around. You can tinker with the tax code. Yeah. I don't think that's going to do it.
But by the way, real quick, before you go, on Goldman Sachs continuing to cut in terms of trading, fixed income trading, how would you characterize Wall Street in general in terms of where we are in the deleveraging process, the job cuts?
Listen, I think that the people who think that Wall Street is anything like it was in 2008 have missed a fundamental sea change. Wall Street may have a big employment level, but the level of risk, capital at risk, and the way bets are being made, very, very different. and that's going to mean a contraction in the number of people working on Wall Street.
I characterize this as creative destruction. Joseph Schumpeter. Like you said people who still see it as 2008. I could tell you, being in the trenches every day, people still see it like that. There's a lot of denial out there. It's not just a river in Egypt. It's going on.
So we're still in the deleveraging mode is what you're saying. Job cuts will continue.
Yes, and also I would look very closely at the role of technology. The technology disruptor. There is no immunity clause for Wall Street, and I think you're going to see a lot of trading activities and a lot of work with wealthy individuals instead of be done online in other internet characteristics that mean fewer people.
People being replaced by screens. It's happening.
Peter, good to see you.
Great to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll see you soon. Peter Kiernan there, joining us from formerly Goldman Sachs.